We learn from elders. We learn from survival. We learned from each other. For trans guys. Wisdom you can feel. Real talk. Collective care. Hello and welcome to For Trans Guys. I'm Megan.
I'm Zander.
I'm JJ.
And I'm Carlo.
Welcome to the show, Carlo. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Well, why don't you just start us off by telling us a little bit about who are you and what brings you to the table?
Yeah, well, my name is Carlo Gómez Arteaga, and I am a trans mass guy, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. And I came to the Bay Area in the late 90s to study ethnic studies at San Francisco State. I wanted to learn more about the people around me. I was raised primarily on the south side of Chicago and primarily with a whole bunch of people from all over the world, but I didn't know anything about their history, about what brought them there, and all of what encompassed their lived experience. And so I wanted to verse myself more in other people's history, and I also wanted to learn my own history. And I had two paragraphs that spoke about my community in my textbooks growing up, and one of the paragraphs was around Cesar Chavez, and we know what just happened with that. So part of it also in terms of just queer identity, the only thing I'd read about was the Twinkie defense, and not necessarily why that was used or who was killed or what the situation was. And so I wanted to learn more. I was a follower of David Harvey and his work. He's a Marxist theorist, and also just did a lot of comparative literature study between neighborhoods that were going through gentrification, both in the city of Chicago and in San Francisco. And there was a lot of parallels. And so I wanted to really capture that in my graduate school work. So that brought me out here. I fell in love with the city, the environment. The Bay Area was a different place in the mid 90s, in the late 90s. And so the type of activism and organizing that was happening at that point in time was just unlike any other place. And so I was really lucky to be part of that when I came and got immersed in a lot of the organizing efforts. And I stayed.
And those who are listening might be able to guess some of your lived experiences, right? Based on your
Right,
name, based on some of the history you shared. But
right.
knowing that some people might be watching this on YouTube, other people might just be listening, is there anything about who you are, your identity that you'd like to describe? And
Sure.
then I'd also invite, if you want to, you could tell people about the trans district.
Yes, of course. And so all this to say that I was born and raised in Southside Chicago by immigrant parents from Mexico who, my dad was a farm worker when he was in his teenage years and wanted more stable work. So he went up to Oregon to work in the railroads. And from then headed to Chicago where he had some uncles working in the steel mills, union work. Of course, it was more stable. We were able to, or my parents were able to go there, migrate there, and I was born and raised there. And so coming out here, of course, I've done a lot of work in different types of movements and different types of positions. And in my most recent role is a co-executive director of the Transgender District with Brianna McCree, one of 10 cultural districts here in the city. It's a very unique experience. And so it's kind of uh, um, a coming to kind of age about like the reasons why I came here, and all that information really culminated in this work that I'm doing today because it brings together the histories of different people, different lived experiences, gentrification, the effects of gentrification and displacement, all these different things that we've been organizing for and around. We're part of my lived experience now, working as the co-executive director, making sure that people stay housed, making sure that people are employed, making sure that people have joy and wellness in their lives as trans people. And my iteration too, coming out as a young person as queer, and then really kind of finding the knowledge of what it meant to be a trans person. And it wasn't until I heard Joe Maldonado, a Boy Scout that was fighting his New Jersey troop back in the mid 2000s, when he was describing to his mom his lived experience as a transgender young person. Oh my God, I could have been uttering those same words to my mom as a young person. And so I just kind of had to reflect. And I think that's what happens when you don't have role models in your life, to kind of open the doors and open your eyes. And so, or maybe when you don't think, that applies to you, and really kind of digging deep in terms of the history of the lived experience of those, and just steering those shared experiences and defining things that I'd never been able to define before. And so I'm lucky to be in this position, and I'm very blessed to work with an amazing group of very talented, very committed people who are very much invested in our community, to making sure that trans wellness and our history is lifted and not erased,
Well,
but
I was
celebrated.
Yeah, I was gonna say I get to spend a lot of time with you in the context of the trans district, but
Hmm.
so often that's where you're in your role of like amplifying other people's stories
Right.
and curating space for other people to navigate healthcare or gender change markings. And so like I'm especially excited to get to learn more of your story, because not that this 30-minute conversation is going to give you as much space as you spend your whole life giving all of the elders in our community, but I just think it's just such a lovely gift to get to know you a little bit better, and some of the things that like make you feel healthy and whole in your
Yeah.
world. And so
Yeah.
just thank you for that outward work that you do, and for being willing to share a bit about you.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
I'm curious, if there is anything about how you navigated becoming a trans guy that you would like to share.
Oh wow. It's a big, yeah, I'm an identical twin. So of course all my life I was raised compared to my very femme presenting and loving cisgendered sibling. But I think the blessing for me in that relationship has been what what unconditional love is, may not understand everything, but I think the love supersedes it. And so I've been very blessed in that sense, is that I've had allies within my family that have really stood up for me and loved me enough to know that maybe they don't understand, and maybe they just need a little bit more time. But if I can give them that grace, they're willing to walk that path with me. And that's been something that's been fundamental. I also have a cousin. His name is Fernando Gómez. He's a graduate student at Guadalajara, and he's studying transfemicide. And so his life work now is dedicated towards alleviating that that harm that's being done to our trans sisters. And so he was most recently advocating on behalf of Natalia, who just won her case in Mexico against her aggressor. And so he was there with her, and he's been traveling to Mexico City, and also brought her to his university so that she could share her experience with other trans folks in Guadalajara. And he was instrumental also in bringing myself and a couple other colleagues, one from Los Angeles and one from the Central Coast, to talk about what it is for trans, mask, Latino, Latina folks who are coming back to our parents' hometowns. What does that look like? What does acceptance look like? And so we were able to be on a panel to discuss those interactions and how much things have changed over the years. And so I've been blessed to be part of different conversations that have really shaped my transness, but have also helped to really be visible. Because I think right now the visibility of it, and for our allies, the defense and the recognition of the wedge issue that we have been made into, doesn't really change our material conditions. Our material conditions, we have a lot of shared struggle. And, bread and butter issues are bread and butter issues. And trans people are just trying to survive like everyone else. And so I think the humanity piece of it has been really important. And yeah, those have been some of the things that I think as a trans person I've come into my own, in terms of self awareness, in terms of um, self love and advocacy, and minimizing that kind of negative talk that we are taught from very young ages about whatever our differences, right? And yeah, those are blessings that I have to be able to kind of have, love, unrequited love. And what does that actually look like? I came out to my 90 plus, I think she's going to be 95 in August in a couple weeks. Auntie, who's like a grandmother to me. Shout out to mi tia Rene in on the south side of Chicago. She is a staple. Um, and I sent her a video and I just kind of described my lived experience and that I would like for her to call me by a new name and a new pronoun. And she was all for it. And in fact, she was the one that was teaching my mom and my other loved ones how to be mindful, how to love, and how to show that love, and how to and that it's okay. You know, yeah, difference is okay.
That's amazing. And one of the things I adore about you is your passion for story, for narrative, for
Yes.
amplifying just the voices of others. And particularly, even as we've talked right now, just how much you saw yourself in the stories of other. And until you heard some of that, parts of you didn't seem to come alive. And I know that's been my experience as well, especially doing some of the transgender district walking tours and kind of amplifying some of that history. And so, my question, my curiosity is like, what does survival for you? You talked about just surviving as we're all trying to do right now. What does survival look like for you in this season of your life?
Yeah, I think reclaiming voice has been really important. You know, one of the things that I used to tell my mom when I was a kid when she would ask, "Oh, why don't you want to wear a dress like your sister? Or, why don't you know?" Or I would refuse to go out without wearing pants under my dresses. That's the other thing I would do. And I remember telling her, you know what? God came and told me that it's okay if I want to be who I am, and if I don't just want to wear pants, it's okay, mom. At 7, telling your mom that is pretty powerful. And so I think I've just always kind of walked with a different kind of drumbeat and a different pathway than my siblings. And I think both I think they are reflective of it, but also kind of I don't know. It's always been just my uniqueness, and I think that luckily, I was in an environment that didn't quell that, that didn't squash that, like it could have happened. And not to say that my spirit wasn't broken at times, because of course, and any times you get heartbreak with rejection of any sort. But but I think all the different kind of positive affirmations. And again, this is a different story. Not everyone has this lived experience. You know, I'm a very unique. I came out very late in life. I think it was an aha moment for me, and literally it was an aha moment when I heard Joe Maldonado speaking about how he would share that with his mom, and his mom sharing those conversations, and just feeling, oh my God, those are the conversations I used to have with my mom. Had I had someone in my life who was trans that I could, in Spanish we say aferrarnos, right, to attach to be able to kind of lean on, it would have been a different story. And I think that's why for me, visibility is so important. And no matter, if folks can pass or not pass, I always say I'm trans because I'm proud to be trans, because we have a history of being trans that goes back millennia, and in my indigenous roots to this day. And so I think that's something that we continue and should continue to lift up. Not so much for myself now, but more so for my elders and for my young people, because our elders need to see our joy and they need to be celebrated. And our young people need to be also honored for everything that they're going to have to hold and push forward with, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. And as you're becoming more you, what does healing look like as you're doing some of this? Are there little things that you
Oh,
find you're practicing these days?
yeah. Oh my gosh, who was it? There was an author. I forgot her. Norma, no, not Norma Alarcon. Oh, another author from Chicago, Chicana. She used to say, healing is like peeling an onion, you know? It's like different layers at different times. And so there's different parts of you that heal in different time. And so what you might think is healing in one point in your life, there's a deeper type of healing in different ways when you revisit that harm or that hurt or that's growth, you know? And so um I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's what comes to mind.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, Carlo, you've mentioned about celebration and celebrating and joy, and so and how like the elders need to see us doing it.
Hmm.
So what are the ways that you celebrate living and ways that you experience joy?
Well, I'm so lucky to work in one of the only organizations that has kind of pushed for our history as trans people. The Transgender District has been a great place to document and to work with others to lift up that history, to promote that history. And I think for me that's been part of my work now is just making sure that we amplify that. Transgender History Month, both here in the city of San Francisco and Santa Clara, which also recognizes it, and then now statewide with the state of California. I kind of think of us as the Miss Opal, who was running around with her tennis shoes, trying to make sure that people knew about Juneteenth. Same thing here. It's like we're lifting up that history, the importance of that neglected, that erased history, to making sure that people don't forget that there was people fighting beforehand for us years later. And so to me, that's one of the most important things, is like making sure that we incorporate that history in our culture making and in our dailiness, because in small ways we can honor those who came before us. And Transgender History Month is just one month, but ultimately we celebrate our being every day of the year. So it's just kind of walking in that with that proudness that, the city of San Francisco used to have this celebration in different neighborhoods called SF Immigrant Pride Day. And so, and that's the uniqueness of San Francisco. It's always been a place where you can lift up unique histories and this wonderful tapestry that we have. Um, and continue and San Francisco continues to do that and be that for trans people. Now, is it something that's given? No, it's something that we have to work at, that we have to keep accountability to, that we have to be reflective on, that we have to invest in. But I think that we're on our way, and I think that there's hope on the horizon. And like Anand Radhe Roy said, I hear her coming, that change coming. Um, and I see that every day in our young people and in our elders that are still with us. Lucky to be, So yeah.
You've talked a lot about your family,
Hmm.
um, in a really beautiful way. I'm first generation Mexican American. My family's, and they've been wonderful. And maybe they didn't understand, but like they just didn't say anything. It was
Hmm.
just we just went about our lives, and I actually appreciated that. I didn't want to become the topic of the family.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure we
Sometimes
I'm
when
sure we are though sometimes.
well, I know I was, but my family was an assimilationist family in Los
Um,
Angeles, so we weren't raised to speak Spanish, my cousins and I
yeah.
mostly, and so they would talk about us in Spanish for
Oh,
sure,
okay.
but we understood what they were saying. We weren't stupid,
Yeah,
but
of course.
I just pretended like I didn't know what they were saying. But one of the things is that oftentimes people think that if we don't have a supportive, loving family, that then we need to go out. We refer to it as a chosen family,
Mhm.
right? But I'm wondering, for those of us who do have supportive families, maybe we also have chosen family. Do you
Oh
have a
yeah.
sense of like a chosen family? What does that
Yes.
look like for you?
I have many chosen families. I have my political chosen family. I have my dance club chosen family. I have my tennis partner's chosen family. So, in every aspect of who I am, I have a subset of people who help fill that for me, right? And I've been really lucky to have people who've been really open minded, that have loved me in every iteration. Even when I wasn't my best, even when I was learning and I was that scruffy little organizer that just was very idealistic and very like righteous. Thank God I had elder patient mentors who work with me and taught me. And so I ended up, most of my work came doing immigrant rights work. I was part of a national legalization campaign right before 9/11, and I work with 10 different immigrant rights organizations across the US to move a legalization platform and program for undocumented immigrants who wanted to adjust their status. And unfortunately, everything changed with 9/11, but one of the things that still survived was the young people who were pushing for the DREAM Act and those early iterations of the DREAM Act, and taking people to DC for the first time and having them advocate for themselves. There's something powerful about that. So I found my niche in my support system in every space that I can have, because we need that. Because we can't survive without it. We need those support systems. And so we build as we go, but we're not alone in that building. And I think, uh, you know, making sure that we continue to do that work and to make those connections. And like I said, the connections of our lived experience are about, the bread and butter issues are material conditions. It's not necessarily, this or that. of difference. Difference is great. I love it, and we should rejoice and celebrate it. And also, there's a lot of things, more things we have in common. Yeah.
Your spirit reminds me a lot of Xander's dad.
Oh yeah.
Xander's dad, who has unfortunately passed away now, but is
Mm.
liberated to keep having as much energy as he had in life because of it. He was someone who in different phases of his life, he would do something like 100% in, and as if he was going
Yeah.
to run like Forrest Gump to the other side of the country. And I think he like ran across the country more than once if you counted him doing it on his elliptical machine.
Well, he went from South Carolina to California. Yeah.
Right.
What?
So
Wow.
like he just
At
had a
age
lot of energy.
72.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So but you give me that same sort of like heart energy. Not that you're like physically
I'm a
always running.
Cancer. I'm a Cancer, so I'm always gonna like speak from the heart. And my younger sister always like kind of pokes fun at me. She's like, "Oh, you're always someone that, as far as I've always known you, you've always followed your heart." And I have to. I just can't. I don't know if it's my learning difference or whatever, but I've just always felt that that's been something that's always guided me, and I can't deny it. Yeah, it's like my heart.
Yeah.
I'm either in it or I'm not in it. So
Yes, that's the
yeah,
way that I would put it. I was going to say
yeah.
like what I wanted to like deeply give you as a thank you for how you are in community when I'm with you is like when you are present with people, your fullness is present with those people, and you like are going to like it's like your Oliver Twist wanting a bowl of soup, and that soup you want is to like be present and hear someone's story, and then to be like, and I am supporting you in every way, and I gotta go because I'm gonna fix
Yeah,
8 things while you're just
yeah.
thinking about if you need a nap. And so like I just wanted to deeply appreciate you because I know that like it's easy, especially if you're doing cultural work with people of very differing ways of seeing themselves as trans, that some days you have to fight the fight with political leaders to just get the funding you need. Other days it's like people are disagreeing about even what the word transgender means. And so I just want to like give you back a full bowl of soup amount of like love and support and listening for everything that you're up to.
I appreciate that, Megan. I always enjoy working with you. My dad was a storyteller. He was told the stories Grimm back in the day when he was a kid growing up, and I never knew that those were like a published series. I always thought it was his stories because he would always just tell us his version of those stories when we were growing up. So storytelling has been a part of my life since a very young child, and I love hearing people's stories. I love sharing people's stories. Um, and a lot of the stories come from the organizing we do in community. And I think of the person that's popping to my mind right now is Jazzy Collins, who did a lot of organizing for housing for our community in San Francisco, a trans Black woman who passed away. I'm not sure if not sure when she passed away, a few years ago, I would imagine. But she was really instrumental in that organizing. And then she was the first Black woman I organized in community with in like the late 90s. And she was amazing, and I appreciated every time I got a chance to talk to her, and just learn something new. And so, like I said, I find my people wherever I go. And so, and also, what's really also really important to me is mentorship, mentoring younger generations. That's been something instrumental I've done since day one. And so, a lot of folks that I used to mentor are now judges or philanthropic. Program officers and stuff like that. And it's beautiful to see the growth and to see where they've gone and to know that they're also helping community and giving back. So it's not just mine, but it's like planting the seeds and making sure that other people are doing it with other folks because we need that. We need that connection and um, that tethering towards our humanity.
Well, and you didn't ask me to do this plug, but like I believe deeply you have so much amazing work to do in this world. Any one day you don't have to beg for money because people have already given it before it was needed, like is a good day. Like, because that's where all your energy should go. Will you tell
Yeah.
people if they want to like connect with the trans district and support everything you're up to, how should they do that?
Yes, you can join us at our socials, or you can go to our website, Transgender District. And thank you for putting it at the bottom, Transgender District, SF.com. We have our lively events calendar that our next big event's happening this Wednesday. We're doing a gender change clinic at the SF Library. We're also signing people up for their library cards if they haven't already. And I believe Muni might be out there too, sharing information about transport. And so we're just trying to, make sure that we feed a lot of birds with one seed in those moments, and making sure that our people have the resources that they need. Because if they're going to take time to go do a name change, why not have all these other resources there so they don't have to, go other places and try to get those things done as well, if we can do it in one place. So thank you for that. And any support, whether it's volunteering, whether it's a monetary support, we are launching our sustainer campaign to help us sustain our finances and make sure that we have cash flow throughout the year. We'll be nimble, be able to put those funds where community needs it. And so those are some of the things that will be important to support. And we would love all that support from community.
So write a paycheck or write your Venmo, all the newfangled ways people share money. Do it if you can. One of my favorite things that we get to do is that we always give our guests the last word. Is there anything you would like to share with the people who are listening?
I would want to give everyone a big shout out and say Happy Transgender History Month. Celebrate one trans person in history. Lift their story up. And mine would be Polly Murray. Not a lot of people know about Polly Murray, and Polly Murray was amazing. And I would ask people to go research Polly Murray, find out more about their lived experience and what they contributed to our country.